and I am the responsible party for organizing this mess this weekend. And I'm also a chuck wagon cook, so that's why I'm going to host this session. And I've got a couple of chuck wagon cooks that are in the audience that could join us up here. The man in the red shirt. And
Come on, Ray.
come on, Arturo, get up here. Jesse, come on down. Okay. And then when they get up here, I'm going to let them go down the row and introduce themselves, because that's the easiest thing to do. So we're going to start here, Mr. Fred Vanderbilt. Introduce yourself.
I'm Fred Vanderbilt. I live in Sheffield, Texas, and I work on living history for this year.
Okay, pass it down.
I'm poor old Ferris. I'm responsible for most of the mistakes that get made outside, so I'll apologize in advance. Monica and I live here in Lubbock, and we cook on the HX wagon and do the best we can, but we're pretty limited because I'm not very good. I just try to not burn the biscuits.
Oh, that's neat.
My name's Arthur Garcia. I'm here from Lubbock. I've got 2 Circle G chuck wagon, and I've been involved with the Cowboy Symposium since almost day one.
My name's Randy Whipple. I cook with the C4P Chuck Wagon, world famous, world-renowned wagon, out of just south of Amarillo, Texas. And we are very proud that we have not been run off from this cook-off yet after several years. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, I'm Jesse Ellis. We are the Rockin' Eggs Chuck Box. We are from Lubbock as well. This is our first year here, so in our second year cooking on our own. So I'm not sure what stories might.
Surely you have some.
So we'll see.
Good afternoon, my name is Ray Goodrum. I cook with the 3G Land and Cattle Company Chuck Wagon. We're from Huntsville, Texas. In case you don't know where Huntsville is, if you know anything about the prisons, they let me out for the weekend so I could come back up here, but I got to be back Monday morning in time to go back to work. So we've enjoyed it, and hope y'all have enjoyed it.
Okay, just keep the mic. I'm going to ask you the next question. You get to be the first guy to answer it.
I knew I said, wait a minute.
Why? Okay, you're still going to be the first guy.
You're still last. You're even more last.
Last and next to last. Okay, so tell these kind of people, why in the world and how in the world did you get started cooking on a chuck wagon?
My wife went on a vacation. When she come back home, there was a chuck wagon underneath the carport. And she said some of those words that I can't repeat because there's children and ladies in the room. And what I did was I went to the bank. The first thing she asked me is where they get the money, and I said the bank. She said, you don't have an account at the bank. I said, I do now. She said, well, I got to sign the papers. I said, well, I sure hope you sign them because I don't think I can take them back. So anyway, it was quiet around my house for 6 months. I didn't have any honeydew projects because she wasn't talking to me. I didn't have anything to eat on the weekends because she wasn't cooking. And so that's how I had to learn how to cook off the chuck wagon.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Jesse? Same question.
So there's a customer of mine that had a chuck wagon, and I was very interested in it, and just went ahead and told him that me and my family would love to come and hang out with him and cook. And got home and told my wife the same thing. She's like, "You did what?" So we ran with the man for a year and competed in 6 other events, and it stuck. So here we are. This is our, like I said earlier, this is our second year. It's taken 2 years, and I think she's comfortable with us doing this now, since I volunteered to do it. But it is such a joy and a pleasure, really and truly, just to serve others, just to see people smile, and also to get something that is hopefully very good, very flavorful, and out years old as far as the cooking, which obviously today you don't see that anymore. So that's how we got started.
Round of applause, isn't that cool? Okay, so I grew up on a ranch out south of south of Amarillo, almost to Canyon. And we had a nice cow-calf operation. My dad loves wagons, and I always kind of wondered why. But I like driving them. I like driving teams, and I had a big time. And so in the 80s, we got to driving teams and wagons, and then in the 90s, I got tired of working for a real living, and I continued to do that, but I started an Old West show in Chuck Wagon Summer so I could share all the great things about what we do with people from around the world. And we had thousands and thousands of people come to the ranch over about 10 years. And as part of that, as an advertising situation, I said, hey, let's take the Chuck Wagons to our first Chuck Wagon cook-off, which was in Clarendon, and in 1991, maybe? 92? When was the first one?
I think 91.
91. So anyway, did that, been hooked, been doing Chuck Wagon cook-offs ever since. Absolutely love it. It's the greatest thing that a guy can do next to sailing a ship. But we'll go into that later. But anyway, wow, what a fun time. And it's really been a big deal for me and my family and all my friends. And we have a great time at it. We've cooked at many of these, and those smiles are worth everything. Absolutely.
Well, the way I got into the Chuck Wagon deal is the very first breakfast the symposium had, they were going to feed 500 people. And I was just kind of hanging around there. And I looked over, and they wasn't 500 people, it was about 1,000 people. And I asked Jimbo Humphreys out of Dickens if he needed some help, and I pitched in, and I got bid, got my own wagon, been awarded the Chuck Wagon of the Year. I've won it in Fort Worth at the Red Steeple, and here and there we've had a lot of fun, and it's a family type deal, and that's what I like about it, because you can bring your kids, and it's just family fun. It's not like a barbecue cook-off where we have people out of control, but that's another story. Thank you.
So the way we got started was Monica's cousin was a wagon restoration guy down in Bryson, Elmer Lee Richardson, and she decided that she wanted a wagon. And Elmer Lee said, well, I've got just the wagon for you. He said, it's the one that your great uncle brought from Illinois. And he said, I'll put a chuck box on it for you. She didn't tell me about all this. It showed up in the driveway under the carport. It was quiet around the house for about 6 months. But anyway, no, that's kind of how we got started. And that wagon is her family's wagon, and we just try to enjoy it. But all of the stuff that we learned was just a little here and there, and a lot of it I learned from watching Randy, because if you'll watch Randy long enough, you'll figure out what not to do. But no, we have a good time. We do lots of stuff helping out the folks out at Ranching Heritage, and like these guys, get invited to cook at some interesting places and do some interesting things. So, but like I say, it's all about the smiles and the thank yous that you get when you get done, and it's kind of cool when you go cook on a ranch for a branding or something, and you feed everybody, and they make sure that every one of them come by and tell you thank you for their meal. So that's pretty cool. Fred?
Well, the reason I got started, I was 13 years old, and my dad said, you got a job this summer. And he didn't tell me it was gonna be all summer. It was 90 days I swamped on a chuck wagon under an old cook, and I got up at 4 o'clock every morning, started the fire, put on the coffee. And every night I took a cold bath in the pond. And that was how I got started. And I fairly enjoyed it. I started Dutch oven cooking and all kinds of cooking down through the year, working with Boy Scouts. And then about 98, 99, I got hooked up with a guy from Brownfield, and he brought me up here to help him out. It was a brisket trailer that they was feeding, selling sandwiches off of it. And that brisket trailer looked like it was 40 miles long, the firebox on it. He said, "You keep these all going, right?" I said, "Well, okay." And I started back into it again, and I've been all over the country playing with my wagon. And we have a lot of fun with it, a lot of good people we meet. And one of the good places that we used to go to was Amarillo. That cowboy cook-off there, you didn't know what you was gonna run into. You go up there one year, it was raining, the next year it was blowing. And then the next year it was both. But we all had a lot of fun. Been to Oklahoma, North New Mexico, all over. But everywhere we go, meet a lot of good people. I do a lot of history at the forts. Everywhere they say, "You want to go talk?" I said, "Well, I'm game." So that's how I got started.
Okay, so Fred brings up a really interesting topic, and that's all the different weather conditions and situations that you can get into, and they're never the same on a chuck wagon. And so, depending on whether you're cooking here in Texas or Colorado or Wyoming or wherever you're going, you can always run into a little bit different thing. And sometimes it's at a contest, and you get there and the rules aren't what you expect, or they didn't print their stinking rules. That's happened to me. And so, tell me, what do you think is the most challenging situation or weather that you face when you're cooking on a wagon?
Or the what?
The most challenging thing about cooking on a wagon?
Those challenging things beat the competitor. It's just watching your cues, knowing your lumber, and watching your meat. And the fire is your key thing to me.
I think the most challenging thing that we've done was we went to a contest in Durango, and we cooked in rain and ice and snow and sleet and everything under the sun. But they threw us a curveball because they put us in this really beautiful area. I mean, it was gorgeous, trees everywhere, lush grass. I mean, it's probably two inches tall, and it was beautiful. And they said, you can't dig up any of the grass, and you can't burn any of the grass. You have to cook off onto something so that you won't burn the grass. So we ended up setting cinder blocks with a piece of sheet iron on it, and then set the firebox on top of that. And that was so challenging because normally you got the ground to reflect that heat back. Oh, you don't have that off of a piece of steel spread on some cinder blocks. But that was one of those where they didn't print the rules, and you kind of figure out later on, yeah, the wind blows underneath your cinder blocks and stuff. Yeah, it was a challenge. That one was a challenge.
I guess the most challenging deal I did was when you get there and it's rained on for 2 days and the ground is saturated and you're trying to keep the wood dry and you start cooking and it keeps on raining and water coming off the fly, coming off the brim of your head, and hey, it's just going to get a little watery. The meat's going to get a little bit moist, but it's all edible, and it's a challenge to cook just in the rain, and it won't stop.
Well, I personally find no challenges in cooking in no way. That's not true. Okay, so one of the best memories I've got, and worst memories I've got, is one of the first, well, not first, but sometime several years ago in Reins, New Mexico, we were cooking down there, and the wind started picking up. Well, then it kept picking up and kept picking up. Then it started picking up rocks and chunking them at us. And it literally was like getting shot with a shotgun. You was boom, boom, rocks flying at you and everything, the wind blowing 60 miles an hour. And I didn't have a side curtain. I didn't know that you needed a side curtain. Well, I learned that day. Anyway, that was a very challenging time, but I gotta tell you, one of the absolute toughest cook-offs I've ever been to in my life Logan, New Mexico, 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago. We were cooking, and we got there Friday night, or Friday afternoon, and it was a beautiful day, and then it kind of got a little cool and misty, kind of drizzly, kind of started getting things kind of wet. I woke up about 4:30 in the morning to this weird sound of stuff hitting the fly, and it was snow, and it was a lot of snow. And it kept snowing and snowing, and it was 33 degrees out there, 32, 31, 29. We froze our butts off.
Did your dishwater freeze?
Oh, everything froze. Dishwater, my sweat froze. It was bad. Anyway, worst time ever. Sorry about that.
Well, it's quite obvious we haven't been in this long enough to get any bad weather stories or the
Well, just
hardest weather.
Just wait.
I know, and thankfully, well, we've been blessed with good weather. However, a couple years ago when we were down in Fredericksburg cooking, so my job is at the fire. I do all the cooking on the fire, and I'm over there working and checking and doing all this stuff. Well, I look under the fly, and everybody's just sitting there going. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? I'm like, that's cold. I said, no, it's not. So everybody else has had a bad experience, so that's their worst experience, and I didn't get to partake in it just because I was at the fire where it was hot, even when it was 40 degrees outside.
I'm kind of like Jesse. I haven't been doing it long enough to have the experiences that all the other guys here have had. But when you're from East Texas and all you have is pine trees doesn't cook well for a fire to cook meat on or cook anything else, because it seems like that some of those turpentine and some of those other things comes up through that wood. The next thing you know, everything's sticky. It's kind of like cooking your cobbler in your Dutch oven, and you have the sticky things in there, and now you got the sticky stuff on the outside from the pine tree. So I'm learning.
Okay.
You need to tell your story.
I'm going to tell y'all a story. Don't ever, y'all, say it's okay for a cowboy to hood for you, okay? I'm just saying, don't ever do it. Because what happens is, and yes, I went, is you get there and they help you build a fire in the morning, and then you see the back end of a horse going that way. And you might see them come the other way when it's time to eat, okay? So we get breakfast done, back into the horse, going that way. And I'm thinking, I'm cooking by myself, y'all. And I was. And I did for 5 days. And it snowed, it rained, the wind blew, the coyotes were after us, and I can't think of just about anything else, but we did it. The food was good, the cowboys, wash water froze, sponge on top. Never seen that before, so I've got one of those too. But yeah, it was fun, and it was for the last branding at the Wagon Creek Spade Ranch. So that's what I did in February. In February, I'm not answering my phone anymore. Okay. So we were down here. I'm gonna let you start. No, you're gonna start again. Tell us a funny story.
I'm still married.
Anything funny?
That's all you got.
That's all. I say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes ma'am, no ma'am.
That's better than mine, because I don't know of any funny stories yet. Let's see. Y'all may have to come back to me.
Some funny story about cooking. There's always something silly happening.
Oh,
What
well.
about you going across the parking lot this morning with your BBDs on?
Those were not my BVDs. Those are some nice athletic shorts.
I gotta get some
And they're not
glasses.
spandex.
Now Chuck Wagon cooks do have just a little different attire sometimes.
Your wife got a good show. She didn't want to speak up about just a minute ago. But
Wow.
I was. Oh, we're getting way too far on this. No, seriously, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, any funny stories. guess the funniest thing I got to say is getting blamed for burning the biscuits, and it wasn't my fault.
That's what they all say.
It wasn't.
That's what they all say.
It was the wind.
Well, hell, there's a lot of funny stuff that goes on around our wagon. We have a reputation of having a fun time, and we have a big time most of the time. Okay, so any of y'all been around our wagon, you see that I have got a couple of wooden chairs, and they're made with two by 12s, and they slide together, and there's a design from 1,000 years ago. They lay in the bed of the wagon real handy, and they work out real well. Well, back many years ago, when we first got them chairs, I was very proud of those, and I wanted to make sure I got to sit in my chair. And so we were sitting there at a camp somewhere, I couldn't tell you where it was, and at the wagon, and we had a bunch of people around, and we were having a good time, and I was sitting in my chair, and apparently the whiskey messed up my ability to arrange myself upright. And I had a huge, well, apparently did, and I had a stack of Dutch ovens right next to me that I thought would hold me up. Well, the further I kept going, everything kind of started leaning over, and eventually, I hate to say this, but I succumbed to this imbalance brought upon me by the barometric pressure of what was going on at the time, and I fell with all them Dutch ovens and all of them crazy. And so ever since then, my Indian name is He Falls from Chairs Slowly. That's Clarendon, Texas. Oh, that was Clarendon, Texas. There we go, see? Okay, your turn.
Well, this happened to me, I'm gonna say maybe about 10 years ago when we used to have about 30 wagons, almost about 40 wagons here. So everybody comes by the wagons and wants to visit, and we'll visit. But the biscuits and the dough wasn't getting made. So we were gonna be late in turning in the biscuits for the competition. We'd be all right for the meal. So I turned to a friend of mine and I said, hey, I don't want a 0 on my score. Can I borrow you one of your biscuits? And he said, you're kidding me, because y'all will win with biscuits. I said, no, we're running late. He said, all right, I'm gonna give you a biscuit. So he gives me a biscuit. We turn it in. They called out the winning deal. We took a second, and the guy that let me borrow the biscuit took a third. That was the craziest thing we've ever done.
I don't know that I have any really good stories, but it was interesting today. So we were getting a judging set up over here in the hallway. And so we were waiting on the Civic Center staff to get there. And so I had all the food judges there in the hallway waiting on them to get the door unlocked so we could get in there and get everything set up. And we're waiting on the food to get there because Willie was picking it up from the wagons. So we were all kind of coming together. And one of the food judges says, the food's already here. I said, no, it's not. He said, yeah. He said, I can smell it. I can smell the food. He goes smell at one door and he said, I don't know. Maybe it's down here on the other. And he go past me and smell at the other door. He said, I can smell the food. I said, dude, you're new. Nothing but smelling the smoke on me. He's like, well, maybe.
Or something else.
Something, yeah. But not really. The funniest story I've got was a Clarendon story, and I told this last year, but it's really too good not to tell again. And it was the night that the tornado came through, and everybody's fly was on the ground. And we had ours up pretty tight, and if y'all ever watched us put up a fly, we don't set our posts up straight. We put them in a little bit of angle so we can really get those ropes really taut. And so we had those pins driven in deep, and they were in there at an angle, and we had that thing all tightened down. And it had been raining too, and it was already wet there. And it come a real frog strangler. And so that sand just really got wet. And we were just pushing the water off of the fly a little bit, and the wind just kept getting up and kept getting up. And then all of a sudden, those pins started coming out. Monica said, I think we better go to the wagon, or go to the pickup. Well, we had everything in the pickup. The passenger seat was completely full of old saddles and everything, and the back end was full. I mean, there wasn't hardly room. There was room in the driver's seat. So she takes off. Well, I can't see anything because I'm the second horse in that mud track right there. Mud flying up everywhere. I got mud all over me, you know, and it's just, and she's just headed to the pickup. And she dives in the pickup, and I get in right after her, and that whole fly just comes down, and I look out there, and there's not a single fly left up. I think maybe Randy's was the last one to go down, but they were all in piles everywhere. She gets in the pickup and she goes, and it's all good chuck wagon cooks would say, she goes, I lost my flip-flop. I said, you lost your flip-flop as I wiped the mud out of my face, you know. So after a while, you know, the storm moves on through, and we know there was a tornado in it because there were some pivots that were wrecked, so I got some insurance business out of it, so we put some pivots back up. But anyway, so it goes through, and she goes, well, I need to find my flip-flop. I said, well, let me get out the flashlight, we'll look for it. Sure enough, there's her flip-flop. It's stuck toe down, straight up and down in the ground where she was digging for ground as she was going to the pickup. Craziest thing I ever saw.
Well, everything to me has been a lot of fun and enjoyable, but I've got one that probably nobody else has got in here. In 2013, I put a new meaning in Spill the Beans. I had just had pancreatic surgery that year, and I was carrying potatoes out to put on the table. Well, I hit a hole, and I stumbled probably 25 feet, and I hit the pot of beans, and the beans went everywhere. Of course, old Ferris had to pick up on it, and I am notorious for spilling the beans, so that's about the best I can go.
We did give him an award that year for having spilled the beans, best at spilling the beans. But you know, everybody rescued him, so they went around and everybody got beans out of their pot, so he'd have beans to feed. I think he won the beans category that year too.
Fred, I'll make you feel better. It wasn't a contest, but it was catering. It had about 150 people there. I had a big old bowl, one of those big bowls like I have out there now. And I had mashed potatoes in it. And I was going out from under the fly to put it on the serving line, carrying it, you know, like this. And a friend of mine was sitting in a chair there, nice gentleman friend, didn't offer to help me, but I tripped on his feet. And I went down head first, and I'm thinking, my face is going in this bowl of mashed potatoes. Please help me, no. And I landed like this on the ground, did not lose a single mashed potato. My face didn't go in there, but my shoulders were sure sore the next day. So anyway, it happens to all of us. At some point, you get that scary moment when you think you're fixing to lose all the food you just spent the last 4 hours cooking. And that's not very much fun, y'all. Okay. If you have a chuck wagon, more than likely you've done some educational events. You've done family and friends events. You've done cook-off contests. You've done parties, maybe, or catering. And some of y'all have cooked on ranches. Tell me, we're going to go back down the line, tell me what is your favorite situation to set up a chuck wagon and cook at?
Well, I guess the favorite situation set up was down at a camp for a living history program, and it was at Menard, Texas. We went in there, set up, got things ready, and had the tarp set up and everything else, and they come in and set up one of these big circus tents. And that night, big wind come up there, and every modern tent in that camp went down, including that circuit tent. Well, at 4 o'clock, we was all up wondering what's going on, and I said, well, you better get something going, because we got to feed 400 people here in about 3 hours. And they said, well, you're the only one with a fire. And I said, well, we can darn sure do it. And 4 of us cooks, 2 other wagons, their tarp blowed down, and I had one up. So we built a fire, and we fed 400 people for breakfast, and then set up a big circus tent back up for the program that day.
So I guess my favorite deal to do is when you get to set the wagon up, you don't have to tear the damn thing down for a while. So I think we cooked up in Wyoming this summer, and I think that was probably the most enjoyable thing that we've done maybe ever, because we were out in the middle of nowhere, 30 miles from anywhere, in a cowboy teepee with no running water and no electricity, so you're just kind of out there doing your thing. And we were, I guess, 5 days out there? 5 days out there, and then we moved back to the bunkhouse later on to finish cooking, but it was 25 to 30 folks, 3 meals a day. And it was, the gratifying part, I guess, is when one of the cowboys said, you know, this may be the first time I've ever been to a Brandon and eaten on a wagon that I'm actually gaining weight rather than losing weight. And maybe we were doing something right, but that was beautiful weather and it was a good time.
I guess one of the things that we used to do for about 15 years was to cook at the Cowboy Hall of Fame there in Oklahoma City. And they had a children's festival around May 30th, 31, whatever. Anyway, we'd set up for about 3 days and cook as much as we could cook, feed as many people that would come by, and it was all educational type deal. They had things for the kids to do, all those stagecoach rides, and it was a big thing back then, and they quit doing that, but that was one of the most best things we've ever done with the chuck wagon.
Well, I'm not responsible for anything you've seen around my wagon, because we have a good no. But I'll tell you what, I have, to me, the funnest thing are these competitions. I mean, you cook for cowboys and do private events and whatever, but when people walk up and you see that smile on their face, and they're like, wow, what the heck are you doing? And we throw out them 22-inch skillets and fill them full of cottonseed oil and lard, and we go to fry them chicken fries. People love that. And I love sharing that with all of them because it's a hoot. And you know, yesterday, we had a little gal come by. She's a homeschool mom with 3 little kids. And they'd been reading Little House on the Prairie, which I thought was a TV show. I didn't know it was a book. Anyway, she said, do y'all cook with a spider? And I'm going a little off subject here, but it's really cool. Or actually the little kid said, can I see your spider? And I looked at her like, what the hell is this kid thinking? Because I'm not very good with children, I apologize. But she said, well, we're reading Little House on the Prairie, and we're reading about how they used a spider to cook with. Anybody know what a spider is? Yeah. Oh, you do? Yeah. Tell us, Ferris. What a spider is? That on Facebook?
A spider is a camp oven, and it's a footed oven, but instead of having a bail on it, and it can have a bail on it, but it has a handle like a frying pan.
Yeah, there you go. It's like a skillet with legs. Well, and you can, a lot of times they had lids that you could cook on top of the lid.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I get to talking to this gal, and she says, oh yeah, my kids are learning all about this, and we heard this chuck wagon cooking going off, and we had to come see what was going on. And it was a great opportunity to talk to them kids about where the cattle business came from. Why are we here doing this? Why are we recreating what went on 100 years ago? It was a grand opportunity for me. Anyway, that's a wonderful thing to be able to do with your wagon.
I have to agree with Randall as well. That's the, in my younger years, getting to day work, I thought was, day work cattle was the job of jobs, and then I realized it sure doesn't pay very much. But, and the funnest thing the best thing that I enjoy out of cooking at different events is getting to meet people like Ray, even though I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get rid of him. But, and Randall, you know, just the camaraderie that you get, that old cowboy mentality of, hey, you need something, you know that you can at least just go ask. Don't look at the recipe, but just go ask. And also just showing others what it was like over 100 years ago to make food in general, and how it got there. So that's the funnest thing to me.
Gosh, now it comes to me. I don't know that it's fun, but I know that what all of us are doing for history. I'm not much on kids sitting in the house watching TV, playing Nintendo games, having a telephone, emailing, Twittering or dittering or whatever it is they do, Snapchatting and all this kind of stuff. Because whenever they get to be our age, and I'm probably the one on the end, he's probably younger than I am. But when they get to be our age, the only thing they're going to have to do is we're going to do everything online. What we're going to do if they don't have a clue that if all the grid goes down and we can't, how are they going to cook and feed their family? The only ones of us that's going to be able to feed people are us that's sitting up here, because they don't know how to get the stove cranked up. They don't know how to, and the reason they can't, because they don't have the phone. I mean, if they don't have the phone, they can't find out how to do anything.
Hey, there's no app.
There's a what?
There's an app, so it's not.
I'm gonna have to be with you, because I still got a flip phone. My wife swears she's gonna give me one of them other kind. I don't know what she's gonna get it for, because I don't know how to do all that messaging and all this kind of stuff. You either gonna have to call me, you wanna talk to me, holler at me, throw something at me, or whatever. But I think that all of us guys up here, and everyone that does the chuck wagon cooking, we're doing something that our forefathers did many, many, many years ago. And the younger generation, unless they're like Jesse's kids and family and the other guys here that have families and grandkids, they may not have as good a food to eat as we do.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Randy and Ferris to tell a story about a chuck wagon runaway in Woodward, Oklahoma.
Holy cow, Woodward, Oklahoma. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it was a dangerous place. Woodward, Oklahoma. Have you ever been there? It's the hottest place in the world. There's a valley there that has humidity of 190,000%. And they have a rodeo, the greatest BRCA rodeo you'll ever find on the 4th of July. They've since changed the date to protect the innocent. But man, a fellow like me would show up at that cook-off and I'd leave looking like him. I'm telling you, I'd lose 110 pounds. It was crazy over there. So, one day, we're there, y'all are there with your wagon, we're there with our wagon, setting up, having a good time. And they had was it a parade?
It was a parade, yes.
It was a parade. And there was a wagon.
Cowboy church.
Well, it was Cowboy Church, the preacher. And this is my rendition, and then Ferris will correct it once I get to his mind. But what I saw was, there comes a wagon with a couple of Belgian horses pulling this little wagon in, and this rather, what would we say, plump? Portly. This big fat boy with hooks on. By the way, when you drive your wagon, take your hooks off. I try to tell people that all the time. Don't drive a wagon with hooks on. He had his hooks on. Of course, his were like never been rode hooks. And
They worked.
they worked all right, because at some point, something went on, and these horses decided that they wanted to leave, and this portly man decided he wanted to fall off and hook himself on the wagon on his way down. This wagon took off in Woodard, Oklahoma. The wagon area is a small U-shaped area. This wagon took off around this small U-shaped area at somewhere just under supersonic speeds. These horses were hauling booty. I mean, wow, they were going. And we all had our stuff, and our stuff is kind of proud. We're proud of our stuff. It is expensive stuff. So we're all, the chuck wagon cooks are running out past the fire to try to stop this crazed group of Belgians with a wagon that are wanting to destroy all our wagons. And we're cooking. Well, yeah, we was cooking. Of course, we're always cooking at the C4B. But anyway, that's another story. But the darn thing, this wagon is wheeling around and the dirt's flying and everybody's like, oh my God. And I'm running up there. I thought, I'll just run up there and grab them by the bits and slow these big babies down. Well, no, they passed me up pretty quick.
Randy was like,
Yeah, they're like, whoa! And they run the T-Cross wagon had an RV that they had started to pull because he had like 17 grandchildren. Be careful, it can happen to you. 17 grandchildren, and they had just been playing out at the front of this wagon, this fancy RV trailer with an overhang. The horses decided they wanted to play in the same spot. They run right up next to that RV, ripped down
They took the overhang with them.
They took the overhang with them, and then they turned and went behind it. Now this happened just after them 17 kids corralled up and went inside. Thank the Lord. So there was no kids injured, but this wagon and these horses went around behind this RV and running up behind this RV, and they started tearing stuff down right and left until they finally got wedged in a spot about 1.5 feet wide. When it was all over with, this RV was worth about $1.32. These horses were happy to have stopped, and this crappy wagon they'd run around had nothing but like 2 front tires and 1 sideboard. It was a mess. Everybody was breathing hard and wondering what in the world we're going to do. Anyhow, the portly fellow with the hooks on, he had finally got up off the ground and was wondering what's going on. I said, "Preacher, you better pray about this deal." Anyway, okay, straighten out the story.
Now, most of that was fairly correct. There might have been a touch of embellishment, but not much. Because when he landed, he was flat on his back, and he drug the seat off with him. So the seat was still good. The seat was good. Most of the wagon wasn't good at all. But Randy tried, because they went down and they turned at one fence and come right up, and we just thought all the flies were going to be gone. But we all ran out, just like Randy said. Those horses just took a little bit of a turn, and then they cut down through where that RV was at. And he's right, it just tore the hell out of the RV. That wagon was pretty well trashed, but it got hung up behind Grubelnick's trailer because it was too heavy to move.
Yeah.
And that bull wire fence, and it was about 1.5 feet wide. And it's pretty interesting when you see 2 Belgians and a wagon crammed in about 18 inches. But it will stop.
And the horses, no horses were injured in this incident.
No horses, no little kids were injured.
No, nobody was
The portly gentleman was a little injured.
He was hurt.
He was all shook up.
He was shook up.
He was all shook up.
Yeah.
He was definitely all shook up.
Yeah.
But it's better than being drugged, I guess.
It was. And man, did we have to drink a lot of beer to get over that.
It was tough. It was tough.
It was tough.
Not to mention all the heat.
Like, oh my God.
It's a super funny story now, but it wasn't real funny then, and I don't believe I'll ever forget what that sounded like, because it was those big horses and that roaring wagon rolling behind them. And I could still see that picture of Randy running out there and flashing his hat and everything, and they just went, he's like, well, that didn't work. But yeah, it was quite an ordeal. Our wagon was actually kind of down on the other end. We didn't quite get that much excitement, but everybody did have to go down there and check on horses and get everything else done. We're getting toward the end of our session, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk to these guys. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Any burning questions? Any recipes you need? Any Dutch oven tips? Anything else you guys want to say? We wanted to share this time with you guys because sometimes folks don't get a chance to visit with the Wagons because they're cooking and getting ready for a contest and trying to feed people on the day that they're here. And so we did this last year and this year, and we think it's a fun session, a fun opportunity for you to get to visit with Wagon cooks. And so they'll stay around for a few minutes, but we're about to have our award ceremony from the contest today right outside here at 4 o'clock. So if you've got anything you want to say, guys, if you don't mind hanging around for a minute.
And I have a quick little story I have.
Okay, here.
Okay, and I don't mean to be sitting down. Get up, I'm too dang tired. All right, so this cook-off to me has been one of the most prestigious cook-offs throughout the years. And we've cooked in these deals for many years, I couldn't tell you, long time. And we were the kind of cooking team that Ferris would put out in the North Pasture over there. And I remember one time when, well, of course I remember, there came a time when the C-Bar-C wagon could not come to the cook-off.
Yeah, Ken was sick.
Ken was sick and they couldn't make it. And I got a phone call from Ferris and he said, would you cook breakfast for us on Sunday? And I was like, heck no, I'm not cooking breakfast for you on Sunday. But then I got to thinking about it. Because he said, if you'll cook breakfast for us on Sunday, you'll get the C-Bar-C spot. The premier spot in the old place.
Yeah.
I was number one. It was number one. I wanted number one. I wanted to be number one. And that to me was a huge deal. I mean, that was our whole team. It was huge. We took the C-Bar-C spot. Well, that was cool that first year. But then the second year they came back. And they were not in their spot. Oh my Lord, I was afraid I was going to get whooped up on by those gals. And it was kind of scary. I felt bad for taking their spot, but very proud to have been the guy that cooks the bacon, or our team. We cooked the bacon for the church service on Sunday morning for now, I don't know, 4 years, maybe 5 years. Anyway, if you get a chance to come see us ruin good bacon, come tomorrow morning, because we will be there proudly cooking a bunch of bacon. It's like a truckload of bacon. And whoever thought a man would be, that's one of my proudest moments, is taking that spot and cooking bacon for the National Cowboy Symposium. I want to thank you for your bacon.
Okay, thanks for coming to the session, y'all.